This Jocks 94.5 podcast is brought to you by Millennium Satellite and Video. Log on to msbnow.com. TV excellence everywhere. That's Millennium. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning starts now.
Welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, 8:21, Wednesday, August 27th, right here on Jocks, as we get you set for kickoff of week one. Coming up tomorrow night, actually. A lot of good Thursday night games, a lot of interesting Friday night games. We're going to have plenty of time to discuss. We're going to go back towards Alabama and Florida State in just a moment, visit with Chris Nee. But first, don't forget, if you miss any interviews, you miss any segments, including Greg having his neck needled on the show yesterday, dry needled, you can go to jocksfm.com, get the Jocks app, just search Jocks945 in your podcast, your app store. That'll take you to the YouTube. That'll give you podcast. You can listen live. Also tell your home smart speaker to enable the Jock skill.
Bill Smith Buick GMC is the GMC Dealer of the Year, the national champion of GMC dealers. You'll understand why when you go and look at what they have on the lot. It's off the charts good. You can get you deals that you won't find anywhere else, like a Buick Encore GX, which is a sporty economical SUV. There's a reason why they keep people coming back, because you're getting $5,000 off a car that cost $29,000. You can get it for under $25,000. That's a deal that you just won't find anywhere else. You can also go and get a GMC Sierra 1500 SLT, $14,000 off the sticker. $67 is what you pay elsewhere. You pay $53 at Bill Smith. The deals like that just continue to elevate the experience every single time you walk in the door. They're the very best, and you'll be glad that you shopped at Bill Smith. That's why 75% of their business repeat customers. That's why they've won 8 national championships as the GMC Dealer of the Year. So go and take the short drive to Coleman. You'll be glad you did. I-65, exit 310, Highway 31. You can also shop online. Have it delivered right to your driveway at BillSmithBuickGMC.com.
You can follow Chris Nee on Twitter at CNEE247 and find his work on the 247 network covering the Florida State Seminoles. Chris, I'm interested most, and I want to know if you have any clearer picture of what the offensive style is going to be, because a lot of people just think, oh, Norvell and Gus work together. These are two very different offenses. What is the mesh of those two going to look like in your mind when they face off against Alabama this weekend?
I'm expecting it to be very Gus-centric, very much what Malzahn has done, especially in recent years at a place like UCF, maybe some of what he did with Plumlee, with Castellanos, but I think a little bit more passer friendly than maybe it was with Plumlee.
All right, so if it goes that direction just a little bit more, what kind of a game are you anticipating from Thomas Castellanos against Alabama and his role? What do you anticipate that looking like?
I think FSU is going to have to lean heavily on his legs, try to create some big bust plays, essentially sandlot type of plays where they can extend it. But that also comes down to pressure, reducing pressure. FSU is rolling out there with 5 new offensive linemen, 4 of whom are new to the program. All are very experienced transfers, but you're going to see that group trying to play together for the first time ever. And, you know, as you guys know, with an O-line, a lot of it's nuance, understanding, a comfort with the guy beside you, knowing how they operate in this moment, this situation. And that's all going to be new. And you're facing arguably one of the best defenses in the country, and certainly one of the best defensive front sevens in Alabama, who's going to create a great deal of pressure. So for FSU to really have a chance in this game offensively, I think it's going to have to be Castellanos being a bit of the magician that we've seen him be at times, especially like 2023 version of him at Boston College.
When you look at Castellanos, by all accounts, the fall camp was a little underwhelming. I'm hoping that it is because Florida State's better defensively for their sake, but I'm also a little concerned looking back at Castellanos over the years and his inconsistency throwing the football. So if they can't run it as well as they hope, is he a guy that's capable of kind of throwing him out of a jam?
I don't think so personally. I think Tommy is very much who we think he is. I mean, he's got 500-plus pass reps in college. You are allowed to get better, but I don't think he's going to take some big leap as a passer. He's not the most accurate pushing it down the field. The thing with him is more so, and especially in the Gus Malzahn offense, is hitting on the quick stuff early on to put yourself in favorable downs where you have an attempt at a shot play because you're playing in a one-on-one situation. FSU is routinely throughout the preseason, both players and coaches talked about having to win one-on-ones in this game, and I think the only way the passing attack works is if they're in favorable situations where they do have those one-on-ones, and that comes down to guys like a Deuce Robinson or a Squirrel White or a freshman Javon Boggs. at wide receiver, really going and making the big play, outdoing very highly talented defensive backs for Alabama. And I just think that's a big ask. I think FSU would be cooked if they get into a game where they have to be pass happy with Tommy Castellanos.
We're hearing good things about Bama's D-line. We think there's a chance, we're not saying it's definitive, a chance that group could excel and be really solid. What are you hearing about the Florida State offensive line so far through camp?
So the five that they expect to rely upon has been consistently the same five, and that's really been true since December, January, when they brought four of those guys in. The group from left to right is going to be Gunnar Hansen, transfer from Vanderbilt, Richie Leonard, who's returning to FSU for a second year after coming in from Florida, Luke Pettibon, an all-ACC type caliber center from Wake Forest, Adrian Medley, who came along with Gus from UCF at right guard, and then right tackle was Micah Pettis, who came in from Ole Miss. In that group, they love Pettibon. He's sort of like the guy for them. He's an excellent leader. He's a very mature kid. He's a football kid. They love him. You listen to Herb Hand, offensive line coach for Florida State, talk about him, and he just gushes about him in that sense. I think the concern with that group more than anything, especially because they didn't really get much of a spring together because of injuries among the group, is just sort of meshing, like handling it when Bama's throwing something exotic or awkward at you or something you did not prepare for in film or in scout. How is that group going to handle it when it's five guys that have never, ever played beside one another in this element? I think that group will get better as the year goes on and be a strength potentially by the end of the year. But I think out of the gate against an Alabama defensive front that's able to win so many one-on-ones, like a guy like LT Overton just creating havoc, I think it's a tall task and it's going to be difficult for them.
What about the you kind of referenced already, but the defense for Florida State? Tony White comes over, implements a different style, going with a 3-3-5 from Nebraska. He had a top 20 unit last year at Nebraska. I think he did a really nice job. He decides to leave. One, I was amazed that Florida State was able to woo him after a 2-10, but I also am really curious to see what this group might look like across the board. So what will be the strengths of this Florida State defense?
Florida State's defense will go as their defensive line, their defensive front goes, and that's led by James Williams, who came over with Tony from Nebraska, Darrell Jackson, who returned to FSU after going in the NFL draft, and Jason Jenkins, who came in from Tennessee. Jenkins just got back a couple weeks ago from an injury that limited him throughout the preseason and the spring, so obviously playing a little bit of catch-up, but he's a guy that they expect to be a central piece. If that group is able to do things up front, I think Tony White is a very talented football coach who's very good at drawing up things in that scheme, that Rocky Long 3-3-5, that really throws teams for loops. But I think it all has to be set up by the front guys doing their job. Behind those guys, I think Jeremiah Wilson, who's now going by Jerry Wilson, he's a transfer in from Houston, who is originally from Central Florida. He's sort of your cornerback one, and he very much helped set that group up in that secondary in the sense of changing the pecking order and giving you a guy who seemed kind of like a bona fide dude. Very talented kid, very good at being around the ball. He's been extremely enjoyable to hear about the competition between him and Deuce Robinson at wide receiver for FSU throughout the preseason. And their linebacker group, I wouldn't describe as being like a bona fide like strength, like amazing, but I do think it's one of the better linebacker groups we've had in Tallahassee in the last several years. That group is sort of led at Jack by Omar Graham, who's returning a bit to his high school element of being more a downhill pass rusher. And in this scheme, I think that plays to his strength. It's something he didn't really get to do in prior years as he played for Adam Fuller and Randy Shannon at linebacker coach. And then they brought in Elijah Herring, who began his career at Tennessee, struggled a little bit with the Volunteers, went to Memphis and was very good. They're going to use him as a Mike at FSU. I think he's going to be a tackle collector for them. And then Justin Cryer, who's a returning piece for them, is the third backer in that group. And I think they feel confident that that group is sound. But for FSU's defense to be good, it comes down to James Williams, Darrell Jackson, Jason Jenkins being dudes up front for them. And that's a little to be determined, especially with Jenkins coming off the injury so late.
Chris Nee joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline talking Florida State as they're going to take on Alabama this weekend. Staying on defense, the mindset of what to attack, potentially try to take away, be it going after Ty Simpson, the Alabama rushing attack, but yet dealing with this receiver core. Where would you try to place that balance heading in on what you've heard, the information you've gathered through fall camp?
I think the goal is to limit their ability to run it and put the game on Ty Simpson's shoulders as a passer, which is, a big task because the talent he has to distribute it to is extremely good. But I think the goal is you just want to make Ty Simpson basically in his first true bona fide start on the road have to be the guy. And I think that's the goal. And that comes down to, one, just being good against the run, getting yourself in favorable downs and situations. And then two, winning up front, putting pressure upon him, not allowing him to have a clean pocket. Because if he has 4 or 5 seconds with the talent that he has to distribute a ball to as a passer, they're going to get the better of you. But I think the goal ultimately is to make Ty Simpson uncomfortable on the day. But you got to stop the run to allow that to be a thing you can do. You're basically rewarded by getting yourself in favorable downs, but that comes to stopping the run out of the gate.
There we go. Chris, great stuff. Thanks for getting us tuned in on this Florida State football team, what's happened through camp, getting set for kickoff against Alabama. Look forward to catching up with you again soon.
All right, guys. Take it easy.
There you go. Chris Nee of the 24/7 Sports Network at CNEE 247. You can follow him on Twitter. So if you were to try to decipher where the Seminoles try to attack, what they try to take away, at least initially, Greg, with that receiver core out there, it's just kind of hard for me to imagine that you're stacking the box saying we're not going to let you run the football.
Yeah.
And I know that we've talked about with Ryan Grubb being back that Alabama could become more of that, wants to do that, but I don't know if that's where your emphasis can be based on Bernard, Williams, Horton, and others that can hurt you down the field.
I fully expect Alabama to come out and to try to run the ball, but probably acknowledge that Florida State's going to completely sell it against the run. Like, they're going to sell it. You can't make the make the inexperienced quarterback beat you.
Mm-hmm.
That's got to be Florida State's plan, no?
Yeah, I would think.
I mean, and they're probably looking at like old Jaden Roberts might not go. They're down a right guard potentially. Whereas we know that Jaden Roberts might not start the season at all because of the quality of depth Bama has at guard. Still, from Florida State's standpoint, they might be thinking, all right, they're down a guard. They have an inexperienced quarterback. They got really good weapons on the outside, but I still would rather take away the run before I take away the pass.
Yeah.
Even though my opinion, this team is a very dangerous passing attack. I think the weapons that Bama has, probably their best attribute. So I'll be curious. Like, what does Florida State decide to do? Did they say, we're going to defend Ryan Williams, Jeremy Bernard, and Isaiah Horton? Those guys aren't going to get behind us. Or did they say, we're going to sell it against the run. We'll take our chances against an inexperienced quarterback.
Right. I think it's super intriguing to see kind of which direction that they go and how they try to play that off. We'll hear a little bit from Kalen DeBoer on where he thinks it's going to be, how it's going to go. Kane Womack, you'll hear from him as well. And we get to a little bit of either or, over-under, so to speak, on individual, team, position, group performances in some of these big matchups next right here on Jocks.
Go inside Jocks 94.5 on Jocks TV. Morning Jocks, Mac and Cube, and Three-Man Front video simulcasts are presented by Bill Smith Buick GMC and Game Day Men's Health. Watch on the Jocks mobile app and YouTube by searching Jocks 94.5 TV.